There is a ton of buzz around XRP right now. We're talking institutional ETFs, massive shifts in global banking, and new hookups with financial giants. So the real question is, are we watching a genuine deep transformation here, or is this all just market noise? In this explainer, we're going to tear it all down, piece by piece, and see what's really going on.
And really, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's what we're here to figure out.
All right, so let's dig into the facts, one piece at a time, and see what kind of picture starts to form.
Okay, let's start with puzzle piece number 1, ETFs, exchange-traded funds. Think of these as the shiny, new keys unlocking the main gates for the big money, the institutional players, to finally step into the XRP world.
You know, it all kicked off with Canary Capital's ETFX RPC. This was the first regulated way for traditional money to get in on the action. It basically gave professional funds a way to invest in XRP without all the headaches of actually buying the tokens or figuring out how to store them safely. Super simple, super secure, a perfect bridge.
But then, things got really interesting with Greekolay's GXRP. This wasn't just another ETF. This was a spot ETF. And the difference here is, well, it's everything. The analogy on the slide just nails it. A futures ETF is like looking at a bar of gold behind a glass case. You're exposed to the price, but you don't actually own the gold. A spot ETF, though, that means the fund has to go out and buy the real XRP. They have to hold the actual gold bar in their hand. And for serious, long-term investors, well, that's a total game changer.
Okay, so the doors are wide open now, but the big question is anybody actually walking through them? Is real money flowing in? For our second puzzle piece, we're going to do just that. Follow the money. Get a load of this number, $89 million. That is a huge amount of money that recently flowed into investment products linked to XRP. And look, as big as that number is on its own, it's the story behind it that's really mind-blowing.
Here's why. This huge influx of cash happened at the exact same time the rest of the crypto market was bleeding out. We're talking major outflows everywhere else. So you see, this wasn't just a rising tide lifts all boats. No way. This was a very specific, very intentional current of money swimming upstream, right into XRP while everyone else was swimming away.
Now, of course, there are two sides to every coin, right? A lot of early investors did the classic buy the rumor, sell the news thing. They took their profits right after the launch, and yeah, that did push the price down at first. And what that tells us is really important. This institutional money seems to be playing a different game. It's not jumping in recklessly. It's moving carefully, strategically, with a clear focus on the long term.
And speaking of that long-term vision, that brings us perfectly to our third piece of the puzzle. Because while all this ETF action is happening on the surface, there's a much deeper, more fundamental change going on in the plumbing of the whole financial system. We need to talk about something called ISO 2022.
So, what on earth is ISO 2022? Look, let's keep it simple. Think of it as the brand new universal language that all the banks in the world are starting to speak to each other. It's like the entire global financial system finally agreed on one single language to make sure transactions are smooth and nobody gets confused.
And this is where it gets really interesting for Ripple. You've got the entire global financial system, which is like this massive, titanic ocean liner, trying to make this slow, difficult turn to learn this new language. But RippleNet, it's like a speedboat that was basically born speaking this language fluently. Now, that's no guarantee of success, but man, what a head start, all right?
All right, this leads us to our fourth and final piece of the puzzle, real-world adoption. I mean, all this theory is great, but is anyone actually using this technology? Are the big dogs of finance on board?
Well, the answer is a big, resounding yes. And we're not talking about small startup banks here. We're talking about absolute giants, names you definitely know, like Santander, American Express, Bank of America, and Japan's powerhouse, SBI Holdings.
You know, these partnerships are really the ultimate test, the proof in the pudding. They show that Ripple isn't just some far-off, futuristic project. It's already got a solid foot in the door of the traditional financial system today.
Okay, so we've laid out all four pieces of the puzzle. Now it's time to snap them all together and see what the big picture looks like. So, what's the story these pieces are telling us? Let's recap. First, you have the ETFs, throwing open the doors for all that institutional capital.
Second, we're actually seeing that money start to flow in, and not just trickle in, but flow in against the market current, specifically to XRP.
Third, you look under the hood and you see Ripple's tech is already speaking the future language of finance, ISO 2222.
And fourth, the final piece of proof. The biggest banks in the world are already using this stuff.
So when you put all that together, the picture that starts to form is, well, it's pretty profound. It looks like a genuine transformation. We could be watching XRP evolve from what many saw as just a speculative token into a legitimate strategic tool for the global financial system itself.
Okay, and of course, I have to say this is just an analysis to help you understand the moving parts. It is absolutely not investment advice. The whole point here is to give you the information so you can go out, do your own research, and make your own informed decisions.
And that really brings us back to where we started, to the big final question. With all these puzzle pieces laid out on the table, are we just looking at a lucky, temporary alignment of a few good factors? Or could we be witnessing the very beginning of a deep, fundamental shift in how finance works?
Time will tell.